Welcome back. Happy Thursday. Happy Halloween. My name is Larry Jefferson, coming to you from the awesome city of Big D, Dallas, Texas. Happy to be here this happy Halloween night as a big Michael Myers fan.
I didn't know you, Michael Myers. You look more like a Jason fan,
Nah,
bro.
buddy, I don't run after nobody. I catch you slipping. I am quiet. I'm ruthless. I wore
Really?
my I wore a Michael Myers shirt today to work. The kids was like, "I like your
Man.
T-shirt." We was at Bowie presenting, so I had to let them know I went there all black Michael Myers shirt. Yeah, man, I'm a huge Michael Myers fan.
Man, I can't say I'm really into like the scary movies, man. The dude that used to scare the hell out of me, man, when I was younger was Chucky. Like Chucky used to scare me, bro.
And he a dog.
Chucky and a leprechaun, bro. Like the little leprechaun, but especially the
He
episode of
was
Leprechaun in
funny
the Hood.
though. The leprechaun was funny.
I know.
And Chucky never scared me because I was like, he's a dog. Like, just pick him up and dang, 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 dang. Like,
Man, that mug was real.
Andy.
That mug was real. I don't care what anybody said, man.
Yeah, I hear
Anyway,
you, bro.
Dantrayl from the great city of Memphis, glad to be here. Make sure if you did not get a chance to check us out last week, we talked about our Project 2025 between the haves and the have-nots and its effect. And Brother Cal came through and definitely laid down some really good wise words of wisdom. So make sure you check that out on YouTube. You can also find it on all your audio platforms, iHeartRadio, so forth and so on. Make sure you check it out. But I'm excited about today, mainly because we're diving into a conversation that's relevant to Larry and I as we talk about Project 2025's effect on education. And Larry, I got to tell you, bro, like it was interesting reading the 44 pages on how education was going to be transformed under this new initiative that they're hoping to start within the first 180 days. And I was like, the fact that it was 44 pages long just on education, it shows you, in my opinion, their um, understanding the impact of education, the power of education, and how they're really going to try to go after and change a lot of things, man. Like I was shocked. So I'm glad that we're going to be talking about it today. Looking forward to the conversation.
Why were you shocked?
I think I was shocked, not necessarily in terms of some of the programs that they were planning to get rid of, but I think just kind of the readjusting of some of the funding lines of certain institutions, you know what I'm saying, in terms of higher education. I think that was a big shift for me because not necessarily has it's been a system that is um, been broken in terms of making the rich richer and allowing them to be able to go to certain schools and get certain degrees and then end up in certain jobs. So the fact that they want to remove some of those programs at some of those institutions was it's a little like, okay, that's interesting. But nevertheless,
Yeah. And so today we'll do something different, more so like a community forum, and allow our guests to kind of just chime in and share some of the information that they may be more privileged to that we may not know about, or some things that we kind of skipped. But I think it'll be a great conversation for us to dive into, but also for those who are not available to listen today to go back and kind of just check it out and think about it. But I share a different sentiment than you do in regards to being shocked. And maybe that's because of the work I do is slightly different from yours and the red tape that comes along with it. And to me, when you're constantly talking about or you're preaching, hey, we're here for the students, we're here for the students, but everything you do is preventive or has these virtual hurdles that you're constantly having to hop through. To me, that doesn't say I'm here for the students.
Mm.
Um, so surprise, nah. I was more so like, oh, they really showing their hands now. They got all spades, so they just slapping the cards down. And
Man,
so um, I think even the start of it, when I started thinking about the funding that they're possibly thinking about eliminating in K through 12 in regards to the Title One things, and thinking about what population does that target, and who suffers from that. And that's not the high achieving schools. Those are the neighborhoods where they're already struggling, where they're already having troubles getting students to be there. The truancy is high. Them going to the alternative schools is already at a high level. So now you're saying, well, hey, let's take these other things that's been preventive or that could possibly help. Let's take that out and let's make it even harder for them. Let's take away some of their funding from a Title One school at that, and saying, oh, nah, we're gonna make this a little bit harder. Um, to me, that doesn't surprise me.
yeah. And I'm gonna read you something, man, and it's actual from the Project 2025. It talks about providing education choice for federal children. Congress has a special responsibility to children who are connected to. Oh no, not that one. It's advancing. Uh, oh, here it is. Empowering families to choose amongst a diverse set of educational options, right? So we know what that really means when we talk about giving certain people certain options, but then allowing them to self-select their school of choice and removing some of the it says talks about removing some of the charter schools and decreasing funding towards charter schools.
Right.
And I'm just like, they are so intentional about trying to just remove all of these types of grants and fundings and programs, man, that are affecting across the country. But I know we got some people online, man, and so we want to give um, opportunity for folks to kind of chime in and say their piece and talk.
Floor is open.
As we talk about, what are the main changes to the education system proposed by Project 2025?
Okay, so I'll jump out there just because Larry brought up Title One. I think first for me, the thing that stuck out, I thought it was interesting that this was Chapter 11. My mind immediately went to the tenets of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy,
Mm,
which is based around reorganization. But there is a little part of a Chapter 11 bankruptcy that allows for a business or individual to seek relief. The idea is that you don't get to dispose of all of your debt. You get to reorganize some of it,
Hmm.
package it a different way, which I think is essentially what we've done with this. I wasn't surprised either. Being in Texas public education, the last few years, um, all we've heard about have been vouchers, and that is essentially what this boils down to.
yep.
Yep.
Um, Eliminating Title One is one thing. I think the first thing that stuck out for me was eliminating Head Start, because Head Start happens before a child goes into a school. And so, if we are talking about programs that fund early childhood education for those most underserved and who need it at beginning at the age of 3, what does that look like? I was at a luncheon yesterday, just it's early childhood investors luncheon. As a matter of fact, in Tarrant County alone, there are currently about 18,000 families who are on the wait list for child care assistance. In
Crazy.
greater
Wow.
North Texas, it's about 28,000. So Tarrant County alone is 18,000. So we cut Head Start. we're cutting the funding for most of those children.
Yeah.
And the idea that we are going to just move the money, right? Or we're going
Yep.
to reorganize it. And so we're not going to have block grants like, Title One or Head Start. We're going to say the states are going to handle all of that. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
allow families to create these education savings accounts, and they can take the money and they can put the money where they want to. But we haven't changed the requirements of private schools, right? And you can take your educational savings account to a private
For
school,
private school. Yeah.
but a private school still has the right to deny you access,
Yep.
or a private
Absolutely.
school
And
can
will.
and change their tuition. So great, you get a $10,000 voucher. My tuition just became $20,000, and so we still know how to price folks out, just to keep them out of places that we don't want. So I think when I started like breaking down notes for myself, it was like, how does this impact students? How does this impact teachers? But more importantly, like the system as a whole. I think Head Start stuck out for me, and also special education. Talked about disproportionality. We know that Black boys are primarily labeled in some way, shape, or form and receive services under IDEA or special education laws. And so rescinding that, everything in these, what did you say, 44 pages, Dantrayl, was targeted.
Yes.
Without a doubt. And the fact that that they're pushing it and nobody is saying, hey, this is not right, speaks volumes to, where we are as a state and how we think about the have nots, should I say, because not only does this infect the students, think about the teacher layoffs for some of these schools that don't get these funds and
Mhm.
how that impacts them. Now you're putting people out of jobs. Now you have impacted other families. And so I'm concerned, but at the same time, my concern is like I'm hoping they are being proactive and looking at this and saying, "Hey, I need to do what's best for me and my family and make some modifications to my life."
Let me ask you this though. Like, do you think do you, well, let me back up. So, what do you think the proactiveness for teachers should be, knowing that this change is right around the corner?
In my opinion,
Yeah, like what do you think?
um, do what's best while you can, but also be upgrading your resume, looking for opportunities, networking, talking to some other people in school districts that are thriving, so to speak, and just kind of encouraging the families that you're close to in those school districts to start thinking about, hey, this is coming down the pipeline because everybody's not going to read this, and a lot of parents that we work with,
Right.
especially the students that we serve, they don't know nothing about this. It's gonna hit them like a roadblock. Like, so this is their chance and opportunity to educate others about what's coming up while also preparing themselves, because if you're only looking out for yourself, then you're just as bad as everybody else that's on the team of putting this together.
Yeah. Because one of the things that I was thinking about was like, kind of starting your own. But then I'm like, man, like with all the roadblocks that they're putting in place, man, just for those that are currently going on, trying to even start your own school is going to be even more challenging. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm like, if I'm a good teacher and I know 5 or 6 other teachers that's in this school, but they're going to end up closing this school, it's like, the whole idea of wanting to start your own because you have the support of those students, those families. But like reading through these 44 pages, man, I'm just like,
But being a
I mean,
good teacher don't make you a good principal. It don't make you a good business person. It doesn't
right,
make you good at building curriculum. It doesn't make you build good at handling discipline. So you can say, "Oh, us 5 teachers can come together and have a school." Who's running it? Who's in
right,
charge? Who determines that? Where does my financial backing come from that? Being that it was mentioned earlier that charter schools are going to get cut. So what are
Yep.
you saying? Are you going to start a Montessori school, or are you going to make this private? And if you're going to make it private, what appeal do you have to these higher financial parents? So yeah, you can be a great teacher, and you can have a cohort of great teachers, but if they don't have other additional skills, then they just great teachers.
Right. But I was thinking about like how the educational system was set up back in the early 1900s, right? And the late 1800s when, a lot of us people of color, black folks, we were the ones that were only could really be teachers, right? Like a lot of the jobs that we had were in education. And I'm just wondering, is is this the pivot, right? To kind of make us go back to that, to where we do have just our own black schools.
Are we together as a people enough? And we talked about that a few podcasts ago, because as soon as one of the teachers do something in error, think how quick. Well, I knew I shouldn't have trusted y'all because boom. Same way we treat black businesses. McDonald's can mess up your order 150 times. You still gonna go back to McDonald's. But let RJ's catfish and them mess up your order, all of a sudden they on Yelp. So that is another fight that these teachers have in front of them, that hey, if even if we start this, will we be supported by the same people that we want to help and get out of this situation? And my answer, to me, I'm like, hell no. Nah. I'm not
But e-
I'm not dealing with it.
but even though if that's your only option though, like if that's your only option,
But it's
like
not
you,
their only option, because they can go to another school district and thrive.
but unless they can afford it,
I'm
if they
talking
can,
about you talking about the teachers or the students?
the students.
Now the students.
Like if the teachers came together, let's say, and had a business model, they were like, yeah, we're gonna create this school,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just for us, right? For everybody that couldn't, afford this, that, and the other. Like I guess like they start their own school, like that's the only
Like
option.
homeschool.
Yeah, I mean, like it could be a homeschool, it could be, you know, I open up this garage. I mean, like just something like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm just thinking about like from that grassroots initiative that kind of took place back when I think about my grandmother. When my grandmother was going to school, she was at the church house, right? Like she would walk down the street, a mile, 2 miles every day just to go to the church house and learn and get educated. But it was her only option. Like she had nowhere else to go to get educated. And she learned a lot from those teachers that were in that space. Now, granted, of course, they didn't have a lot of the resources that some of the other schools had, but I mean, I don't know, man.
But again, it still has to have somebody backing their curriculum,
Right.
and also backing them financially. So you can go to school and get educated, but if somebody's not backing your curriculum to certify you, then how do you get a diploma?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think that the idea is that, right, that the federal funding for schools is supposed to end over a 10-year span, right? And
Right.
so
Mm-hmm.
the money all goes back to the state. And so there will always be a state supported school option, but is it going to be in the best interest for our children? And if choice is what we have, when our choices are limited, you're either going to choose, you know, the state supported option, which is going to be whatever the voucher amount is going to be. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
today we do the same thing, right? Per pupil expenditures, we say, you pay property taxes, but the property taxes that you pay, are spread out depending on the district. There's the recapture that's there. Well, that's going to go away. But if you have a per pupil expenditure already that the state has determined, is what we do, because we're just talking about federal dollars. So state dollars are going to go there, and the feds want to send the money back to the state, and then the state gets to distribute those. There's always going to be a state or a public school supported option that comes from the state. But big picture part of that is that the services that are included in the day-to-day operations of schools are going to be eliminated if you don't have idea funding for students who need content mastery or dyslexia
Mm-hmm.
recovery or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, and most of those are students of color, then yes, you can send a child to school because compulsory education is compulsory in the country. You have to
Right.
send them to school. But what happens when they are in that school space, I think, is what's more important based on these 44 pages of what goes away. And so, yes, if we eliminate Title One, we eliminate a block of funding for schools. In some cases, in some school districts in Fort Worth, there are very few schools who do not receive Title One funding.
Right.
And
Right.
so some schools receive more. And yes, even my friends who may be listening and they're like, but my kids go to Tanglewood Elementary and they go to Pascal. Pascal gets Title One dollars. So most schools in Fort Worth ISD get Title One dollars. And so removing that and reallocating it or reorganizing is the scary part of it, because then the state gets to dictate where
Who
it's
gets what?
reorganized to, who gets what, and based on what.
Yep.
And so what you end up with, East Side High before Joe Clark got there. I mean, that's as real as it can be, you know. And just
But
think for big school districts like Fort Worth and Dallas. I mean, where you gonna spread that money to?
but it also makes me think about a lot of those schools. So like a lot of the high schools that, were around in Memphis when I was there, over half of them have closed, right? Of course, there's been some charter schools that have popped up, some more private schools that have popped up. But with you being in certain areas, right? Of course, we talked about redlining in the previous episode. You don't have the choice, or your options are limited, right? Like, let's just say that, right? So like, for example, the neighborhood that I grew up in, now you can't necessarily choose to go to another school outside of this one. Like, you have to go to that one. And so a lot of those gangs and everything is just being funneled into this particular school. So now you're having like so many discipline problems and everything in between, man. But I guess my concern is like, how do we combat that if we know that this particular, like, they're funneling us into schools to where we don't get the education, or we can't think, or we can't function properly because of all of the distractions that are going on in our schools. Like, what is the answer, right? Like, is the answer we just look at like homeschooling, and then maybe
Vote.
um
Shit. You gotta vote. And that
yeah,
starts at local levels. Everybody thinking about this big one. That started with your city council people because they make a difference. And if you're not voting for them, and you can't really complain about what's going on in your neighborhood if you're not out doing something to be effective and pour back into that community.
yeah,
But I mean, homeschool is an option, or you the parent, either you're getting them up in the morning early and you taking them somewhere, or you using public transportation if it's available in your neighborhood. Are you
right,
paying somebody's lift? You may just have to budget that into your account. I mean, in your budget funds. But at the end of the day, I'm hoping everybody is just really looking at it from a proactive lens, and that includes us that's in higher education, because it not only is it going to impact public K through 12, it's going to impact higher education. So for those individuals that are on TRIO grants and all
right.
these
Yep.
different
Trio
grants
grants.
that's
Yep.
tailored towards special populations, it's important for those individuals to start looking at like, do I need to still be on this grant? And if you look at higher education here lately, you see a bunch of trio jobs coming up
Yep.
open. So those and these other grants, they just coming up open. Why? Because people are like, hey, let me be proactive about this and make some moves.
I mean, even the high school to college conversation as it relates to early college, high school, and PTEX, like
Mm-hmm.
those programs are targeted towards a special population of
Come on
students
now.
who otherwise would not have access to higher ed. And so
Facts.
again, if we
Facts.
eliminate those kinds of programs, we go back to the traditional dual credit, which is the haves,
The
because you
halves.
Mm-hmm.
can pay for college tuition for dual credit for your students. And all of those programs are eliminated. I mean, we have what in Tarrant County, um, 47% of students enrolled in high schools are in some kind of PTEC or
Yep.
TCM or early college high school. And
Wow.
so we eliminate 47% of that population that currently has access to higher education because they wouldn't otherwise. Then where does that leave us?
The Avid programs, not
Mhm.
to forget about them too. Because
Oh,
what are they
absolutely.
doing? Preparing students, getting them college prep programs that's helping these students get prepared and mentally ready to go into college. You take away those programs, the counselors ain't got the time to go through that with all these students. They not bringing in people to do it. And if so, can the students stay after class or do they got to catch the bus to get to the house? Or do these students got to go to work because they're helping contribute to the family funding? So to me, it's hella targeted and to me, it's hella intentional. You got out of your place. Let me oppress you back.
Yeah. Do you think it kind of stemmed from seeing more of us getting advanced degrees, and the reason why that's it's been a kind of a huge attack on higher ed? It's like, oh, wait, it's more of these black folks and brown folks getting these advanced degrees. Nah, we can't be having that pipeline continue like that.
I don't like to do assumptions or think for other people. Being a psychology guy, I look at uh, data and logistics and I say, hey, we put these programs out here, they probably not going to take advantage. The programs got taken advantage of. And now being that they're taken advantage of and you're seeing an increased number in Hispanic female, especially Hispanic female graduation and African American female graduation. The guys are now even kind of creeping up, especially with the Hispanic guys. Black guys, we still got some work to do with them. But if you're seeing these, and then not to mention some of the Middle Eastern students that came over, and now they're getting degrees. We making this. You look at resumes; it's looking real competitive now.
Right.
So now, only way you choosing somebody is because daddy used to know you or daddy golf with you, and so you get the favoritism from there. But if we looking at resumes and accolades, everything is kind of side by side. Like we equal. And when you see that, I mean, think about Black Wall Street. Something got to get tore down.
Right. Right.
As you can see, I'm on a whole rant.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. We got other listeners on here. I want y'all to chime in and please give your thoughts. Would love to hear from you in regards to just kind of why do you think we're having these systems now being put in place? Where do you think it stems from? Do you think it stems from more of us getting advanced degrees, taking advantage of these different programs? Um, let's talk.
think we're gonna get him to say nothing, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Well, let's transition a little bit to higher ed. I know we were talking about K through 12, and we kind of
Hmm.
spent a little bit about that, but let's talk about its effects on higher ed. We talked about already that the trio funding will be cut in a variety of different ways. We talked about Title V. We talked about some of our, other grants and funding will be eliminated that support um, certain underprivileged, underrepresented individuals. Do you think that because of the cutting, that we will see less students enroll into higher education?
I don't think it's because of the cutting. I think it's because, and being that I interact with a lot of um, junior high and high school students, I think they're looking at higher education. You go do 4 more years of college. You may get a good job, you may not get a good job. And but if I go be a social media influencer or a content creator, I'm getting all these bukus of dollars. So they think, and they popularity may last maybe 2 or 3 months, or maybe 2 or 3 years. However, what they're seeing is I can do all this and I ain't got to go to college. That has been a constant reminder said to me, hey, why I need to go to college when, I'm gonna go get debt, I'm gonna go to school for more years, I'm gonna have to work hard. But if I do this video, I get 20 people like it, that turns into 10,000 people like it, 20,000 people like it. Shoot, I made the same amount of money you done made in a lifetime. you know, So I think that part plays a bigger role, plays a major role. I'm not sure they are aware of what is facing them. We are aware because we're in those settings, but in regards to things that blocking them now, the students that are on campus and they are woke, so to speak, they see the changes, but these changes already happened with SB 17 saying, hey, you ain't finna have no men of color program. You ain't having no women of color program. You having no LGBTQ plus programs. Like you were not having no Women's History Month. All that kind of stuff has been pretty much snatched away. So if you're saying we're gonna snatch away all this, but you telling me I belong, or we want you here, how?
Because when I look at it, man, I look at it like it's a domino effect, right? When you remove those programs, you remove a lot of those support networks and resources that students really depend on to create that safe haven or that their safe space where they can come congregate
But they
and
got to
feel.
know about it before they get there. If they don't know about it when they get there, they're not even prepared for that support level. Think about our previous job that we were in. Students didn't know. We made them welcome because we introduced it to them. They were already there. We just gave them a comfort level to stay and retain them.
Right.
Now, retention may be an issue once they get there.
That was my thought, is that I don't think, especially if we get to this point, I don't think in the beginning we'll see a major drop in higher ed enrollment. I think, it's going to ebb and flow just like it always has based on the economy and all of the other things. I do think once we get to the point, if this is fully implemented, right, and all of these things are eliminated in the next 10 years, then the population of students that we have will definitely shift. I think
Big time.
the students who come, who are looking for their next great opportunity, or who go to a 2 year institution and say, hey, I'm going to complete my core curriculum because I know that I'm going to this 4 year institution and this is a better fit, and I'll get to the 4 year institution and I'll complete my degree in my major. And I think we're going to see far fewer of those students. we're going to see students who are going to choose technical programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can complete this certificate or I can complete this applied sciences degree, and I can go make the dollars that I need to. And there is no need for me to transfer to a typical university. I think the typical state funded universities are going to see a downshift in
Right.
liberal arts degrees and all of those
Mm-hmm.
things. They're going to definitely start to look at applied sciences degrees, things that they were above in the past, but now they will start to reach for those. I also think that we're going to see the rise of more liberty universities, Trump universities, because there's a part of this that says, hey, we want to give higher education to everybody, including faith-based schools and military-based schools. And a part of that, if you read about student loan forgiveness, they were
Yeah.
upset because those universities and colleges that shuttered because they were fraudulent, right? Students didn't have to pay those loans back. And all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, that, those dollars that were coming into that institution were gone away. We're talking about military academies, like, really? Uh, it's mentioned, right? Faith-based organizations, military academies, career institutions. Most of those are for profit, right? And
Yeah.
so those regulations that used to happen there, I mean, we talk to students all the time, right? Who was little Romeo used to be on the ICDC, um, infomercial or whatever, and associate of applied science degree in nursing at ICDC was like $30,000 as opposed to half of that at Dallas College or Tarrant County or Weatherford or someplace. So I think students are going to start to choose. So we're going to see a shift in higher education enrollment. The demographics are going to change, and the programs that students are choosing are going to change, and the competition is going to increase because all of those regulations that used to exist when it came to higher ed is not going to be there.
Yep.
So do you think though, like, what I because what I'm thinking about is, do you think that we would have a lot of those students who, yes, they may not know about those particular resources that are there to support them, but then once they're enrolled into, let's say, the community colleges, the four-year institutions, that because they don't have some of those support resources that are there, that they end up, I don't know, for whatever reason, um, dropping out, and then now they're in debt, and then now they're kind of that conversation of, was college really for me? You know what I mean? Like, do you think we're going to see an increase in number of those particular situations or students that are going to be having talking about that?
I think it's been depends on the grit of the student. I didn't have it, and I was just still determined to get things done. Um, Hell, I left community college with 96 hours. Dumb. When I got the UNT, I had 96 hours. Nobody taught me nothing. So, and I blame that on them. I blame it on me for just taking criminal justice classes. But yeah. However, I honestly feel like the resources that these students can find online and how much they interact with each other, I don't see it because they feel like, hey, well, shoes, I ain't got to interact with these people anyway because all I got to do is go on social media. They're not looking for social engagement as much as maybe our generation was. So for them to not have a multicultural center or a leadership academy, they okay with that because they want to work at home and not deal with people no way.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're looking at a different time where individuals are saying, hey, if I can't work from home, if I got to come sit side by side by another person and all that kind of stuff, then this job is not for me. COVID changed a lot of things and a lot of perspectives. And I think in some ways it handicapped or crippled social engagement.
Yeah.
And plus, most of these kids can't write. So,
Nah, that's true. That's true. Did anybody else want to chime in?
Well, and then to add to that, students really, especially the younger, they have not bought into the idea that education is the way out. They have access to so many other things, um,
facts.
fast money, and we see a lot of the older generations. And when I say older, I mean, somewhere in the 40s, 50s, that type generation who still believes in the power of education. But as far as this younger group, I don't know. And so whoever spoke about the demographics changing, that's absolutely true. And I'm wondering if later on, once this whole fade drops off, will we see them later in life returning back to school? So I think it's just a season right now of students being able to access so many different things and so many different influences that education is just not. And then it is the question of, is the return on investment really worth it? We have people with degrees
Facts.
that are still searching for jobs. And let's just be
Right.
honest, AI is taking over.
It is.
A lot of the jobs that we once had are now being done by
Robots.
machines, right?
Shoot, you
So,
can't even get a person to check you out at Walmart.
yeah, seriously. Seriously. And then I saw on Facebook where someone ordered towels at a hotel and a robot showed up at the door with the towels. So things are changing and they're moving fast. So unless higher ed can keep up, I just don't know.
Great points. And you mentioned the robot showing up with a towel. I went to a restaurant and the robot brought the food over. I was like, wait a minute now.
It's
Really?
unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah. Like one of those little Star Wars little thing. He brought it over.
R2D2?
Man, brought it over. I was like, wait, what's going on?
Oh man, that's funny. That's
I
funny.
mean, I think we're seeing that in terms of return on investment already. Remember, the last couple of years we've spent building all these cybersecurity programs and centers of excellence for cybersecurity and this college and that college and even community colleges in Texas have used one of their 5 bachelor degree cards to do bachelor's degrees in cybersecurity. And then there was something that came out a couple of weeks ago that even those graduates, ethical hacking and everything else, they don't need them anymore because AI can do it.
Yep.
So I can build a system to tell me how to ethically hack, right? And I don't need you to sit in the space and do it anymore. And so they're already starting, to see that. I think about I never wanted to get a degree in education. My high school um, cheerleading sponsor and class, sponsor was like, get a degree and get your teacher certification. You'll always have something to fall back on. I absolutely never wanted to do it. 20 years later in education, I'm like counting down the opposite, right? Because no, don't do it. No.
Yeah, I don't know how I got her either.
What you mean?
I never wanted to do education. It wasn't even in my trajectory. Like I was on something totally different. I wanted to be a
What?
defense attorney, criminal defense attorney. And lo and behold, I got here. Not that to me God ordered my steps and I feel like I was supposed to be here for a reason
Oh
now that
yeah.
I've been here, but it was never in my plans to like, oh, you know what? I want to get in higher education and I want to influence people. Nah. I always felt like teachers didn't make enough money for me. And that's what the students are saying now. Like, y'all don't make no money. They looking at $50,000 like, oh shoot, I can get that out of Cracker Jack box.
Oh, I know, right? They like, man, Amazon paying that right now.
Shoes. I mean, think about this.
And benefits.
Bucky's managers make $120,000.
Yep.
Bucky's, the gas station.
Yep.
You can go to Aldi and their cash registers. I mean, cashiers. They're making like $25 an hour.
Man, Panda Express making 88.
There's no. I mean, think about that. Think about how much stress, less stress that is. Just all you gotta do is make sure that the rice is hot.
Hmm. That's it. That's it, bro.
You said 88. Let's see how many manager jobs they got over there.
Hey, I'll be
I
going to
tell people all
Pan.
the time, I'm
You
going to
said
be the
what?
car wash attendant after retirement. I'm going to be the car wash attendant at Bucky's because how many people actually go through the car wash? What is it like 29.82? I'm
Right?
going to be the car wash attendant at Bucky's after retirement. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think one of the things you said too earlier, Larry, is in terms of like the population and the students and the services. You took that to them, and that's how they came to know about what was available. You talk about talk about his institutions and HBCUs and all of that. So we're going to say, yeah, we're not going to give we're not going to give federal aid based on what kind of institution you
Institution you.
are.
Yeah.
Then what happens
Mm,
to those? So I mean,
man,
we've got HBCUs that are struggling now, and of course, in the
facts.
last administration there was an infusion of dollars, and so many of them. I mean, would we have the resurgence of Morris Brown, or Morris Brown go away again? Because we're going to eliminate, these massive subsidies, as they call them, to traditional colleges and universities, which, of course, is code for the HBCUs, the Hispanic serving institutions, are going to be the most impacted.
Yeah.
Super facts.
So let me ask you all this then, and just kind of in light of conversation is, with everything being removed, not everything, but a lot of things being removed, and I think just kind of a shift happening in the K through 12 and particularly in higher education. I mean, what can we do, right? So, what are some of the things that people are listening in, you know, I mean, besides going out there and voting and knowing who they're putting into office, what are some other things, avenues that they can do?
And I definitely think, yes, voting, but more importantly, as Larry said, not just next week, but in a couple of years when we have midterms, right? Or when the school board is up for election, and you see that school boards used to be nonpartisan, and now folks are being bought on school boards. And so yes, vote, but more importantly, vote when you don't see all the billboards and the commercials that are going on, as we do right now. I think also it's important for folks to understand that they have a voice, right? We talk about
Mm-hmm.
advocacy and activism. It can't be those of us who always are speaking up, right? It's important for parents to exercise that right. As early as, like I said, early Head Start, school boards. Go to school board meetings and use that public comment. You have 3 minutes to talk at school board meetings, and nobody can say anything back to you. Exercise those kinds of rights. So yes, vote,
Love it.
early and often, but also speak up and become an advocate and an activist for all of the things in the small arenas, not just when we're facing something so detrimental as Project 2025.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna put
definitely
the
agree
check
with
next
that.
to that one.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that. And another thing I was thinking about was, PTAs and getting excited and getting involved within the PTA organizations that are helping support, in my opinion, a lot of these schools that don't have the funding or don't have the resources or don't have, some of the support or educational background to be able to kind of strategically think through how we navigate certain spaces. And yeah, yeah.
What quote you got for us today?
All right, man. So let me see. Um, let's see. This quote comes from a gentleman by the name of T.H. White. And he says, the best thing for being sad is to learn that the only thing that never fails You may grow. Wait a minute, is this the right quote? Oh, yeah, yeah, it is. All right. The best thing for being sad, replied Merlin, beginning to puff and blow, is to learn something. That's the only thing that never fails. You may grow old and trembling in your anatomies. You may lie awake at night listening to the disorder of your veins. You may miss your only love. You may see the world after you devastated by evil lunatics, or know your honor trampled in the sewers of baser minds. There is only one thing for it then to learn. Learn why the world wages and what wags it. That is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting. Learning is the only thing for you. Look what a lot of things there are to learn from his book, The Once and Future King.
Nice, man. Well,
So appreciate everybody, man. Thank you for joining us on this conversation. I think we can always continue having this conversation. Make sure you tune in next week as we get ready to shift a series, and we're kind of going into the drama unfolds. And so we talked about the impact of the PTA and just kind of underlining some of the challenges and things that happen within the PTA. You definitely don't want to miss it. The individuals that we have coming on are phenomenal. So it's going to be a good conversation.
looking forward to it. Happy Thursday. Enjoy your happy Halloween.